in LA as we step into the dynamic universe of O'Neal McKnight, a true, multifaceted creative force whose influence extends seamlessly across the realms of music, television, and fashion. In this episode, we explore O'Neal's extraordinary career trajectory as we traverse the intersections of music, television, and fashion that define his artistic tapestry. We uncover captivating stories behind O'Neal's groundbreaking collaborations. We chat on his TV show, Kosher Soul, a thrilling odyssey where artistic expression knows no limits. No better way to pass the power, one episode at a time. People, I'm here in LA with the one and only O'Neal McKnight. And I came prepared because I knew he was going to come in some very cool sunnies because that's just how he rolls. And so I decided that I'd come in mine, and I think maybe I'm winning.
I think you're winning too. I came in front. The gold accent is really taking it to the next level.
Love it, love it, love it.
Love it.
So happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
And I think, actually, I'm just going to go without these, y'all, because I'm not as cool as O'Neal.
No, come on, you're just as cool. Come on, let's see those beautiful eyes.
So I think that what I find most fascinating about us is our commonality that we both come from the South.
Yep, the Carolinas.
I'm a North Carolina girl who left for New York City and Singapore.
Yeah.
And I read in an interview that you said that you grew up in the sticks.
Yes.
In Lynchburg, South Carolina.
Lynchburg, South Carolina, and I had to get the hell out.
But how did you end up a successful producer, stylist, musician, actor in LA? I mean, that is such a leap.
I think it's luck and timing. I was very fortunate. My late cousin, Andre Harrell, who started Uptown Records, he discovered Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, Robin Thicke, just to name a few artists. And he was kind of like the gateway for me. I was living in South Carolina, and I was, looking at everybody else and their jobs and their occupations, and not to belittle what they were doing, but it wasn't something I wanted to do.
So Andre was kind of the singular role model?
For me, when you look at role models, I had two. Michael Jackson was my first role model because...
You're crazy about Michael Jackson, are you?
I love Michael Jackson. I mean, it's not... I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever see an artist... The first time we saw him, he was 10 years old. And he was able to evolve and turn into Michael Jackson musically and creatively. And it was the first time I saw a superhero. It kicked off with Michael Jackson, and then having a second cousin by the name of Andre Harrell, God bless, who passed this year, be 4 years during the pandemic. To have somebody in your family that's doing those kind of things and really bending the culture and changing the culture. I knew I had to get to New York City. I knew I had to get to him because what I had desired and wanted out of life, I couldn't get in South Carolina.
How did he know how to get out?
His parents, his mother and father, God bless them as well because they've also passed. They were originally from South Carolina. And so his father, Bernie, moved to New York City, got a job. And normally when you get a job, you send for the wife or you send for the kids. So at this time, he moved to New York City and he sent for my Aunt Hattie. And they then had two kids, Gregory and Andre. And Andre grew up in the Bronx, urban inner city. I think early on, he saw himself having a life that maybe wasn't seen on TV, wasn't seen in the magazines. So he had to create that narrative. And the same thing for myself. I looked at my life and, I was very humbled and gracious to have both my mother and father. I grew up in a mother and father household. My dad worked really hard. My mom was a seamstress. But I knew the kind of life I wanted to have for myself did not mirror theirs.
We talked earlier, we were saying that we both danced when we were growing up. And I think your evolution in entertainment began as a dancer?
Listen, when I was growing up as a kid in South Carolina, if it was a talent show, I was in it. Yeah. For me, dancing was my escapism. My dancing was allowing me to leave Earth, so to speak, and soar. That kind of charisma and that gift for dancing to New York City with me, and was able to dance Little Kim and Aaliyah and Outkast and do numerous music videos and go on the road as a dancer, and it was a great experience for me.
You styled many famous people.
Yep.
It's so different now. And as we kind of focus on content creation with this whole season of the podcast, how much harder is it for creators now when it comes to style and being stylish?
When I was a stylist, there was myself, Misa Hilton, June Ambrose, Andrea Lieberman, Eric Archibald. It was just a handful of us that were doing the bulk of the music videos. And I remember, looking at a show called 106 in Park at the height of that show on BET, and they had a music video countdown 1 to 10. And out of that 10 videos, 8 of those videos were mine that I styled. And social media, I love it and I hate it at the same time because it took away the magic and the specialness of dressing somebody and you seen it on TV and you seen it in a magazine. Now it cheapens it a bit,
Because it's immediate.
It's immediate. And there's no curiosity. There's no hustle. I think that,
what do you mean? What does that mean? How there's no curiosity and no hustle?
Because if it's like, I always laugh because, if you're in a bar and you see a beautiful woman and you guys make eye contact and you send her over a drink and you strike up a conversation, after that, everything is mystery because you don't know. Now with social media, that same person you met at the bar, you struck up a conversation with, you bought her a cocktail. If you guys exchange numbers, cool. But if she exchanged Instagram, you can go to her page and see everything that you might wonder about her. There's no mystery. Mm-hmm. And I think that also kind of like warped the dating scene for a lot of people and they don't realize it. And a lot of girls are single and da-da-da. They're single because we already have so much access to you. We can see what you like, your favorite drink, your favorite TV show. I mean, hell, for some people, we already know what you like in bra and panties because you already posted it. You know what I mean? So there's no mystery anymore about anything. And I think it makes this generation really lazy because the magic of wonderment is the key to escapism.
It's interesting when you're talking about that whole bra and panty things because I have two daughters.
Yeah.
One's 15, one's 20. They're not actually into social media that much anymore. They still consume. But I asked them, I said, please do not put pictures of yourself in skimpy bathing suits because one day when you want to run for president, this is going to come back to haunt you.
And that's the whole thing. I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, and obviously, thank God, I'm not having those conversations yet. But this generation, they don't live thinking they're going to get old. Everything is right now. Young people doing things that are just so permanent. And I'm like, you're going to get old, right? Like, like you're 20 today and 55 tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, it moves really quick. And you don't realize, like, I'll be 50 next year, which is crazy to me. I don't feel it, but I'm going to be 50.
Don't look it.
Thank you.
Don't act it.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm going to be 50. So I just think that a lot of the choices and the things that this generation is making, they're not thinking about the long-term goals.
Well, it's funny when you're talking about tattoos and ink. I told my daughters that whenever you think about doing it, just go to a beach resort and walk down the beach and look at all the old people and how the ink has morphed into creations on their body that is not how they originally intended.
Oh no, I saw a lady on the beach. She had initially it was a butterfly when she got it when she was 19. Now it's a hawk. It's like it was a butterfly.
Oh, that's so funny.
But now it's a hawk. It's no longer a butterfly.
Yeah, we age, and life happens, and we deal with it. Well, I want to talk about. Can you give us a quick from dancer to stylist, kind of your evolution and how you ended up in LA?
Like I said, I moved to New York with the dreams of just being Alvin Ailey. That was the dream. I was privileged to dance with a lot of amazing people and be in a lot of music videos, be a part of a lot of great tours. But I remember interning for, my cousin Andre, interning at MTV, interning for Russell. And I was an intern and somewhat of a socialite. And I remember being in awe of all the magazines and editorial stuff that my cousin and Puffy and all those guys were getting. I was like, well, I want to be in a magazine. And I remember telling my cousin, I was like, somebody should write a story about me. And he was like, you haven't done anything. He was like, why would they write a story about you? You haven't done anything. And it made me think. And I started thinking about my life and what I was doing at that time. I was like, well, I'm interning for all these powerful guys. I'm going to write a story about myself. And so I wrote a story about myself. And the girl who I was dating at the time, I told her, I was like, let's go up to Harlem. I'm going to buy a bunch of Kodak disposable cameras. And I'm going to put together a photo shoot for myself. And at that time, I styled myself not knowing what a stylist was. And I dressed myself in, various outfits, and she took the pictures. And this is before online and you get all the information. So I just bought a stack of magazines and started finding who's the fashion editor? Who's the person I should mail this to? And I mailed it to several magazines. And one magazine that stuck out to me was a magazine called Trace Magazine. It was kind of like a New York City fashion, eclectic, downtown Soho kind of magazine, very artsy, kind of like Warhol, Basquiat, if it was a magazine. I think their rival was like Interview Magazine. And I sent it over to a guy by the name of Smokey Fontaine. He loved the story. He ran the story. It kind of opened the door for me as a person of fashion. I bumped into Tommy Hilfiger at a party, didn't know him personally. He liked my style. He then connected me to Peter Paul. Peter Paul worked for Tommy Hilfiger, and then I started working with those guys. And before I knew it, I was a stylist. Emil Wilbekin, who was the fashion editor of Vibe magazine, came up to me one night and was like, "I love your style. I think you should work for the magazine. I think you should freelance." And one of my first big jobs was little Bow Wow, who's now Bow Wow with 2 kids and grown up Bow Wow. But he was like 11 years old. And I met Jermaine Dupri, and Jermaine Dupri loved my work. And he was like, "I want you to do all Bow Wow videos." That turned into Jermaine Dupri introducing me to Usher, and Jermaine Dupri introducing me to Ludacris. And I started doing all their music videos. And it was like this gradual progression where I started to pull myself away from dance more and lean into fashion more. And, I've been, privileged to work with a lot of amazing talents, recording artists and actors and things of that nature. And then as the fashion space started to get overly saturated and everybody wanted to be a stylist and everybody was saying that they were a stylist, it kind of lost a lot of the magic for me. And I was no longer inspired to be a stylist. And my girlfriend, now wife at the time, she was at my crib and we were watching TV, and I was watching, it was like, Jersey Shore, Real World, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, all these various shows. And I started looking at us and I was like, we should do a show.
We can do this.
We can do this.
Yeah.
And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And so my best friend DJ Cassidy dad for Hanukkah got us these little flip cams. And it was like these little flip cams. You could film like an hour worth of footage, hook it up to your computer, download it. And we started using those and kind of like filming all of our day-to-day and interactions with each other. And we're already an interracial couple. She's Jewish, I'm black, the whole thing. I was like, there's a great storyline here. And she was like, "What would you call it?" I was like, "Kosher Soul."
Kosher Soul, baby. I love that.
And she was like, "Oh my God, I kind of like it." Really not thinking about it. Unfortunately, her dad passed. She moved to LA. We were doing the whole long distance thing, trying to figure out what we were going to do. I wasn't really ready to kind of like uproot and leave New York yet, because I'm like a true New Yorker in my soul. And one night I had a dream that she was pregnant, and she was like, "I hadn't seen you in a while, blah, 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 blah." She gave me a hug, and then Bradley Cooper walked out. And Bradley Cooper, kissed her on the cheek and was like, "Who's this?" And he was like, "Oh, this is my friend O'Neal." And I just woke up in a cold sweat. I was like,
I'm going to make her mine.
I'm like, forget about this. I was like, she's not marrying Bradley Cooper. And moved to LA, still with the idea of Kosher Soul in my back pocket. And thank God, and shout out DJ Cassidy. He introduced me to Melissa Cooper, who was working at Ish under Michael Hershon, who was one of the vice presidents of VH1. And he said, "You should pitch this idea." So I edited a bunch of footage up and put it together, and we did a pitch meeting. And she was like, "All right, cool, I like it." 5 months passed, nothing. We did that knowing it wasn't right. Every pitch meeting bombed. After that 5-month contract was up, I got a call from Melissa Cooper, and Melissa Cooper said, "Hey, what's going on, Kosher Soul?" I was like, nothing. I was like, "It's funny you just called." I was like, "My contract with my person is up, and we're, still shopping it." She was like, "We'll spend like 30 grand on it, and let's see what happens." And we shot it, and they took it out to Real Screen, which is like where you take reality shows and you pitch to the various networks. Oxygen, TLC, and Lifetime, they really loved it. They was like, "We want this show." I was like, who's going to give us the money up front, and who's going to still allow me to be a producer on the show? Because a lot of times you create these shows and they just want to take the IP.
And most reality stars do not.
And they don't.
Right.
And and that's one of the reasons why Bethany Frankel became so successful. And now when you do reality shows, they have what they call the Bethany Frankel clause, is because she had that skinny girl wine or whatever on the show, and it made so much money outside of the show, and the networks wasn't making that money with her. They was like, Every network now has a Bethany Frankel clause. If you're selling T-shirts, you're selling hats, whatever, we're getting some percentages of that. So
It was salad dressing, by the way.
it's salad dressing.
Yeah.
Salad dressing, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of knew the ins and outs of contracts and stuff like that, and the music industry and how I wanted to do this show. And Lifetime was the right network in theory for as giving me what I wanted, but wasn't the right network for this show because they didn't know where to put us. It was this very interesting concept, and they didn't know whether to put it between the Little People of LA or this other show. So our first night with me just promoting it and using my relationships, we opened to over 700,000 people tuned in, which was great for like people who was not from that reality space. And then it got kind of weird and wonky because they just didn't know how to market the show. And we did a season which was really 2 seasons in one, and so they split them up, but it was still a great learning experience for me to see how it really works. And now knowing like I know what I want as a talent, and I realize that most people who work in these spaces, they don't really know what they're doing. So I think now it's really about creating your own narrative and being able to stand on that, and knowing how to go into a room and actually sell it. You know, I'm in the mindset of I like to be in business with people that I would actually want to hang out with and want to have conversations with. I will actually want to invite to my house, grab a cocktail with. And I just think that it's so, with the executives and the talent, the space is so far from each other. And sometimes the age and the demographic is so far from each other. They don't really have a full grasp of how to even market this, because it's like, how can you market an interracial show about an interracial couple when you don't have any interracial friends or even have a black friend? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I wanted to ask you, do you think now with social media, it's easier for people of color to do well because there is no gatekeeper?
You know, I think that's where social media is great. You just got to have hustle. And, I always laugh because I'm like, dude, I was like, you don't really even need a publicist now. You got Instagram, you got YouTube, you got TikTok, you got an iPhone that, if you buy the right lens, can look like almost cinematic. I remember when everything on the computer was green, and like literally everything was green, and you had a floppy disk. Mm. You know what I mean? So I look at like, what our generation was able to do with minimal resources, which were advanced resources then. Imagine if we would have had what the kids have now.
Well, I wonder, as business manager at Gush Cloud,
yep.
And I feel like you're bridging the traditional media, the new media. How do businesses and investors kind of play a role in the whole content creation narrative?
You still need those endorsements. You still need those deals. So, if you're an influencer and your whole thing is beauty, there's the opportunity where we can go to Dove. We can go to Revlon. We have a talent by the name of Reggie Cruz, and he's a comedic personality. He does a lot of skit stuff, and he's had deals with Old Spice and Uber Eats and things of that nature. And I think for corporations and these big conglomerates, it's an easier sell sometimes for them because they might not have Brad Pitt money. So let's now go to social media and see the kid who has 15 million followers. His engagement or her engagement is super high. We can now give them X amount of dollars a month or a year to kind of put these little short narratives together to kind of bring eyes to our product. So I think that has helped a lot of companies and their infrastructures cater to their new generation, a new demographic. But what I did notice during the pandemic, a lot of the things that resonated to people during the pandemic the most was things that they were familiar with. When you look at people like D Nice, who's a DJ, and DJ Cassidy, they broke the internet because they came with the stuff that we're familiar with, the music we like.
Yeah, Pass the Mic is amazing.
Pass the Mic, and Cassidy started doing that literally from his living room. I was like, dude, this is something special. And to watch him now take that concept from just this YouTube show on Triller to selling it and packaging it and turning it into a series for BET, to now turning it into a global tour. What I can say about the internet is it's great at opening the doors to things that are new, but I still believe that what you know is what you're going to buy.
And speaking of DJ Cassidy, I think this is a really good time for us to bring out that HANJAN.
Yes, yes. Where's the HANJAN? HANJAN, which is one of our products under the Gush Cloud umbrella. It really,
Yeah, let me see.
you know,
It's
I'm
actually-
not big on, I don't do Red Bulls, I don't do energy things like that. I don't even drink coffee. I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. But I do like to party occasionally and have a cocktail.
Me too.
Shout out to Sarah Santos for introducing me to the espresso martini, and I've had several of those on as of recently. And the HANJAN make me feel like I didn't have any.
Yeah.
And I'm a lightweight. When I say lightweight, 2 cocktails, I'm feeling like Tupac. But you know, it rehydrates your body. It has some old Asian secrets up in there that we don't know about, and some raisins and all kind of good stuff, and it makes you feel good, and it tastes good, and it tastes like grape.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I'm not a lightweight.
Oh,
And-
really?
Yeah, and I do fairly often drink maybe a little bit more than I should.
Yeah.
And so a HANJAN has become a staple. It's in my bathroom. I do one before I go out. I do one when I get home, and I do one the next morning. Even like if I'm just feeling a little bit under, I'll pop one, and it's like you just feel better.
Taking HANJAN, eating HANJAN, it kind of gives me like this extra little boost.
Yeah. So the HANJAN, yeah, we like it, and
We
it's a
like it.
jelly. It's great. The flavor is great. What was very cool during Chinese New Year, they did the one that was like citrusy.
Yeah.
Which was very cool for Lunar New Year. So I think we both agree, HANJAN to the rescue.
Yes, yes, yes. If you don't have it, get it, please.
I think now everybody is thinking on how do I monetize my content?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, how do you monetize yours? And do you have suggestions for the aspiring creator?
I haven't gotten to that part yet. You know, I think that everything I've done has always been fun first, and then money came after. So now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, people are literally starting to hit me up and like, dude, you got 500,000 followers. Like, you should be getting paid for your posts now. You know, your engagement is extremely high. I think that for people who really want to be in this as a full-time job and a business, which is crazy because I have friends who have kids that are a lot older than mine, and like they're making so much money. So I think it's really just aligning yourself with something that you believe in. You got to go with your gut. You got to feel it. Everything I've done in my life career-wise was not necessarily what my mother or my father would have planned for me, but it turned out pretty good. When it comes to monetizing it, don't just do it just to do it. I think that at the end of the day, whatever you're pushing, whatever you're promoting, let it be something that's true to you and honest and good. And I think when you do that, the real people and the real good things from that will come out.
I mean, it sounds hokey, but I think authenticity is the thing that you hear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be, you know, fake it till you make it. But no, I think we are in a moment where the only way you're really going to go viral is if you're doing you and people get that.
Yeah, you know, like I said, you know, that was great. You said, you know, fake it till you make it. That was our thing. Fake it till you make it. Now everybody's just faking it and faking it and faking it and faking it. And some make it and some don't, but it's just like so much fake stuff out there. You know, I think, you know, social media can force people to lose a lot of integrity when it comes to things that they should be for and what they shouldn't be for.
Earlier, you were talking about how your parents never would have envisioned your life. And I assure you, my parents never would have even fathomed that I'd end up in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
And so we both have daughters.
Yep.
And I'm sure the lives that they lead are going to be so drastically different from ours. But
Yeah.
how do you feel about your daughters and social media?
It's one of those things where as a parent, your back is up against the wall. My daughter, you know, Maddie, my oldest, she's such a big personality. And I find myself sometimes just pulling out my phone, filming her because she's doing the cutest thing or saying the cutest thing. And I want to share it with the world. And she's spoken to me and said she wanted a TikTok and she wanted her own Instagram. And she had an Instagram when she was much smaller and didn't even know what it was because she was the honest baby for Jessica Alba's brand. So she was on the packaging. Jessica Alba, we've been friends for almost 25 years.
That's such a flex.
Yeah.
My daughter was the honest baby.
She was the honest baby. And it's crazy because I literally, when Maddie was born, I just posted her picture and Jessica hit me up and was like, oh my God, Maddie's the cutest thing. She was like, I want her to be on my packaging. And Maddie was on all like the packaging, the diapers, the baby wipes and all this stuff, which is like hilarious. But now, you know, she's almost 8 years old. I want her to be passionate about stuff, but I want her to be passionate about the right thing. And sometimes social media is funny because her mom has a TikTok, and her mom really just has it for Maddie to post stuff on hers so she can monitor it. And when Maddie had come to me, Maddie was like, the other day she said, "Daddy, do you think I'm a good dancer?" And I was like, "Maddie, you're amazing." She said, but why didn't I get more likes on this?" And I was like, wow. It really made me feel like, okay, I need to pump the brakes a little bit more, because people tend to feel like, well, if I didn't get enough likes, I didn't get enough views, well, maybe I'm not a likable person, or people don't find me interesting. And it creates insecurities about yourself that you just really don't need at 7 years old.
That's so true. It's very scary. I guess the you've got to be confident enough when you're out there to not worry about the likes, and most people are not.
Oh no! In this generation, I often say, like I said, I'll be 49 next month, and my Instagram page was disabled for like almost 3 weeks recently, copyright stuff, and I'm not gonna even lie to you. The first 3 days, I felt like a crackhead. I felt like I was in rehab, and they were trying to get me off crack, and I wanted crack. I literally was like, I don't know. It was almost like a part of my brain was just malfunctioning. Like it wasn't working right without Instagram. And it made me realize, like, damn, I was like, we are becoming one with the machine. Whether we know it or not, we are. Because I'm sure you've gotten that feeling where you sense your phone is going to ring, and then it rang. You know what I mean? So something is going on out there with this social media and this technology, but it's also very scary at the same time.
When you talk about tech, that makes me think about your podcast. And we've seen NFTs go kind of, from boom to bust. I wonder, how do you think Web3, AI, that whole realm is going to shape content creation?
Don't let me get started with AI. AI is scary because I was literally listening to a Michael Jackson Thriller song, but it was baby Michael Jackson singing it.
But it's inevitable.
Oh, without question.
So how's it going to shape content creation? Are people going to, that whole authenticity thing, right? Is it going to get lost because you're going to have...
I think it's going to get lost because you can already catfish people, right? And you can take pictures, and you can bring your champagne and Moet and look like, well, on another vacay. You know what I mean? You can sit
That is so sad.
You can sit in half of a Rolls Royce and be like, oh my God, going shopping. And so it's getting faker and faker. Like you said, fake it till you make it. It's just getting, they're not trying to make it. They're just trying to continuously keep up with the fake. So I think this AI and all this stuff is going to enhance the fakeness. So imagine now if, let's just say, Beyonce does a deal with Apple, and obviously Beyonce is married to Jay Z, but in this app, Beyonce is married to you. So when you go home, you got the Beyonce program, and you walk in your house, and Beyonce's standing in the kitchen, or Beyonce's sitting on the couch. She's not really there, but she's there. So what then compels you to want to deal with reality? Nothing.
But then maybe, playing devil's advocate, reality becomes even more important, and that authenticity, because at some point you have to know that it's not real in the goggles. So maybe real becomes even more valuable.
I would hope that reality becomes more valuable. I think that these technological advances are pushing us further and further away from reality. The good thing about it, we were talking about music and showcasing talent and doing things. You have a lot of amazing singers on social media that sound amazing. But what happens to the real interaction with a crowd? What happened to that night you bombed? And you learn from that experience, and then you go back and you go home and you reset yourself to get better. You don't have that because you get 15 heart emojis and 5 fire flames. You're like, I'm golden. But what about that person in the back saying, get the off the stage? You suck. That toughens your skin. My generation came from the era of rhinoceros skin. You know what I mean? You took a swift kick in the ass, you got back up, and you made something good out of what just happened. Now everybody's like, I'm super sensitive. You can't
walking on eggshells.
Everybody's walking on eggshells. You can't say this. You can't critique. God knows if you critique, you're hating, you're belittling, and you might just be like tampering with their psychological, mental issues that they have now harbored. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. So having girls and having daughters and social media, going back to that, I'm just really trying to help navigate that narrative in my household and in my space, because I think for women especially, you got to be stronger.
One of the things that I was super excited about when the whole NFT blockchain thing was hot was the idea of in your digital wallet,
Yeah.
you could actually know if somebody, because everything's going to become an NFT. I mean, our homes will have an NFT to
Yeah.
it. Everything's going to be, it's going to be documented on the blockchain.
I'm not an expert in NFTs and crypto and Bitcoin and all that shit. When somebody said they want to pay me in crypto, I'm like, no, pay me.
I need some US dollars.
I need some real money. If it can't fold in my wallet in my pocket, I don't want it in any other wallet. You know what I mean? And as far as NFTs, I appreciate it. It's cool. I'd rather have a basket out on my wall than in my wallet.
Just so you know, Cordell was on my podcast and he talked quite a bit about those NFTs in one of our former episodes, if somebody wants to go back and listen and watch that one. And before you were talking about Beyonce, and I really wanted to ask you, do you think that Jay Z went too far when he got the Icon Award? I just felt, because Beyonce and Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift, obviously are there for each other because they were at both of their premieres for their movies. You know what I mean? And I just felt like it was such a backhanded kind of slap at a woman who's already had that with Kanye.
Beyonce is very revered, and Beyonce has received many accolades for her accomplishments throughout her career.
She's the queen.
The way I took it as, if you have 15 Rolls Royces, you can't complain about not having the blue one. You got 15. You know what I mean? So,
but not album of the year.
Album of the year. So
the most coveted.
I think Beyonce has proven her value time and time again. I think Taylor Swift has proven her value time and time again. I think they're both two forces that are just like not of this planet. We won't see it again. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan. I respect her as an artist. I just think that with Jay Z, who I know and respect, it's like she's won everything. You know what I mean? And maybe he said it too, because I always like to pull myself out of the equation. I don't know what that ride to that award ceremony was like for them. I don't know if Beyonce was in the car saying, I wish I win. I hope I finally win. And maybe he, as a husband, defending his wife, was saying maybe what she can't say. Because we live in a time now, Beyonce can't really act like she want to win Album of the Year. You know what I mean? And it takes away the mystique and the human of Beyonce. And maybe he was saying what Beyonce really want to say. And as a man saying, listen, I'm going to say what my wife is thinking. Baby, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't say this, but you want to win Album of the Year. So it's so many sides of the coin that you can look at.
They all want to win Album of the Year, but she was sitting there in that hat giving us a prelude to the country songs that were coming out.
Yes.
And she looked like she was looking at him like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I think that behind closed doors, there's just a whole nother narrative.
Of course.
And I'm sure she's probably like, that was just for the car ride, baby.
Right. So what do you think of her country songs?
Listen, the origins of country music come from the South, come from black people, it come from slavery, it come from grassroots. And I think that, a lot of these conglomerates, a lot of these companies, they take it and they change the narrative. And I think that the country, diehard country fans and country radio stations and everybody who was opposed to Beyonce doing country music, it's like, how can you be opposed to something that a culture of people created? You know what I mean?
I think it's shameful.
I think it's absolutely shameful.
I mean, she is extraordinary. And the fact that she's topping the charts, she's just absolutely amazing. And for anybody to say it's not her place to be doing country,
come on, it's
wrong.
It's asinine, in fact, to say that. I think that people don't realize we live in a time where the more you fuss, the more you draw attention. If any radio station or anybody was feeling any kind of way, they should have kept their mouths closed. Once you start telling people what they can and what they can't do, and what's theirs and what's not theirs, it just creates a whole uproar of a culture and a group of people that was like, okay, now we're gonna push it all the way to the top. And listen, I came in front. This Hold'em, Texas is so goddamn catchy. When I'm at the light and I'm blasting it, I turn it down when people pull up, because I was like, I'm in here blasting Beyonce. The song is great. Beyonce's
it's all over
great.
TikTok. Everybody's doing the dance.
Everybody is doing the dance. And I'm sure she's going to win a lot of awards. I would love to see what the Country Music Awards do.
They better do right by her.
They better do right, because, you can say your actions can show your racism without you saying you're racist. And I think that the Country Music Awards, if their actions show that they're not inviting to Beyonce with this huge mega hit, you're already saying what it is.
Before we close, I know you've been to Singapore
Yep.
a few times. We've got a lot of people watching and listening in Singapore. What's your takeaway from Singapore?
My takeaway from Singapore is I didn't realize that all of Singapore is like the size of Manhattan, really. And literally it's like 45 minutes front to back, the whole thing. And it's weird because when you come from a place like, United States, and we're not as governed and as controlled as Singapore, you wonder if we should be a little bit. Everything was so clean. I felt right at home. And after even going to Singapore last year, like I said, which was my second time, I knew where I was going. So I liked that. And I really liked just the essence of it. I told Althea, who's the CEO of Gush Cloud, I said, Althea, I could live in Singapore, but it is costly.
Everything you said is exactly true. And I'm delighted it's my home. When I think about the rest of my life, I want to be in Singapore. So I hope you'll come back.
No, absolutely. And I want to also add, I love like the botanical feel. I really love that.
It's the tropics. It's on the equator.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
If you love summer like I do, then you're set.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. I really enjoyed myself.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to add before? I've got a couple questions at the very end here. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you feel is important to get out there?
No.
All good?
So. I'm good.
All good. Okay. So Ross, who works for Gush Cloud, wants to know if you have any plans for acting and singing in the future.
Well, you know what, Ross? I had a record deal in 2008. I had a song called Check Your Coat. It was one of the top 100 singles that came out that year. And talking about Beyonce's Single Ladies was number 1, and the top 100 singles that came out that year, I was number 91 with Check Your Coat featuring Greg Nice, produced by DJ Cassidy and Dub L. I haven't yet been inspired to go back to the studio. I could see myself in later years becoming like a Burt Bacharach. If you guys don't know who that is, Google it. Being a Burt Bacharach and writing songs and doing things of that nature. Far as the acting is concerned, I'm always eager to jump in front of the camera because I love being in front of the camera. It's very like second home and second nature to me. But I'm working with Alan Hughes, who I'm excited to work with as a producing partner. He did the Dear Mama documentary on Hulu. He did the Arnold Schwarzenegger doc. He's gearing up to do the Marvin Gaye biopic and the Snoop Dogg biopic. So there's a lot of films that we're going to be working together, and I'm going to be producing with him as well. One
piece of advice you'd give to an aspiring creator?
Stay authentic. Don't lose yourself to the hype. I think that we live in an era and a time where everybody is proving something to somebody else. And at the end of the day, just stay true to yourself. If it don't feel right, don't do it.
Last but not least, where do you see yourself at 60?
It's not that far away. So definitely more rooted into film and TV producing. Definitely having my name in a place where when it comes to TV shows, films, documentaries, like I said, with Alan Hughes, we're building out Defiant Media, and that's our goal. Our goal is to be a safe place for real stories, real content, real scripts, and real talent. So 60 years, definitely in that space of, film and TV. Listen, if I could be Norman Lear, I'll take it.
Well, O'Neal, I've loved having you on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You are a master storyteller.
Thank you.
And I feel like, thank you so much.
Oh, them sunglasses come back on.
Oh, yeah, for passing the power.
That's right. Pass the power.
Here we are.
Boom. Peace.
Peace. Hey, Power Tribe. Thanks for watching, listening, and yes, subscribing. Hopefully, we've elevated your day, since that's our aim on Pass the Power. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Recording and exploring content creation in LA with Gush Cloud for this new season was nothing short of epic, both entertaining and enlightening. I hope you agree. Or not. Let me know how you feel for real. Your feedback fuels our journey. Drop me an email at pp@paigeparker.com. If you want more behind-the-scenes magic, follow at Paige Parker on Instagram and TikTok. And please visit gushcloud.com for more information on my production partner. Let's keep the good vibes flowing while we pass the power, one episode at a time.